Hi, my name is Ed Garza, Mr. Pitchman, and we're back again talking with business professionals all across the board. Today, I have the privilege to speak with a good friend of mine, Betty, and Betty has a specialty that I think you need to pay attention to, and that is when it comes to writing, bringing your ideas to life, putting them on paper, putting them in a document. A lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of business owners have a lot of ideas, a lot of strategies. But the problem is they don't make the time to get it in writing. So Betty, great to have you here. You're with the Writers Launchpad. That's your company. That's your baby. Tell us a little bit how that started and at what point in your life did you find out that, hey, you know what? I need to be writing for my profession. And I know it's your passion because I know you love doing it. You love working with entrepreneurs, helping them bring their ideas to life. How did that begin?
Well, it began in elementary school when I got my first encyclopedia and I discovered the origins of the alphabet. And I got so excited because I realized the alphabet was a tool that was invented so long ago for commerce, and it took off from there. I really got into language as a kid. I used to carry around the dictionary so I could win the spelling bee, and diagram sentences was excitement. I mean, I was probably fairly annoying to some people, but for me, it was my passion that, about language. So I got trained as a writer early in life. And I have always written, although in between my training and what I'm doing today, life happened and took me on other pathways. I raised a ranch, which means raising money to raise a ranch. So I had various businesses along the way, and I learned the languages of businesses in different business environments. Each one has its own language. And then later, as I got more into being in my kids were grown, and I started getting more into my own things and more into my own writing. I put out my first book. I started my first blog. I started to realize that it was something that I could offer other business people of value and in service, because I understand the language of business, and a lot of people don't have that kind of training to put what they do and how they do it into words. So I really got into that, and I branded myself as the Writers Launchpad in honor of a number of people in my family who are involved in rocket science, both past, present, and future. And so that's what it's all about. The Writers Launchpad is about getting your message out to the world. A lot of business owners are stressed out because they don't have the time to put together their stuff, like you said earlier, Ed. And I step in and fill that gap by working very closely with the business owners to put together their messaging, whether it's a blog or a book. I'm here to help.
Fantastic. Well, obviously, it's something you found your passion early on in life. Tell us, spelling bees. Tell me a little about the spelling bees. Were you a champion of any spelling bees when you were growing up?
Well, we had in this one grade, I went head to head with a young man who was a first generation immigrant. His parents were from Ukraine, and he was the first person in his family to learn English. And so every week we went head to head on the English language. And I would study up on the root origins of words to be sure that I understood whether it was coming from Greek or Latin, so that I wouldn't mess up during that critical high pressure moment when you have to spell the word. So it could be me, it could be Basil in any given week. We never knew.
That's fantastic. What a great story. I bet you had a lot of fun growing up. But I'll tell you what, not everybody grows up loving the English language or learning how to express themselves in, when it comes to writing. I know the first time I fell in love with it wasn't until college, going through an English college course, that I had the right teacher that, plugged in and caught my attention. And I realized how much I enjoyed writing stories, and more on the nonfiction side, just writing in general. I love it. It's fun, but finding the time to do it, that's the challenge. when you run a business, you're good at what you do, the service you offer, the product you offer. And that's kind of where you fill the gap, right, Betty, for a business owner, right? I mean, you sort of extend their time now. You could interview them on a Zoom call, right? You could record a conversation with them, and you could, from there, that could be the launch pad for blogs or white paper or even a book in some cases, correct?
Right. One of the authors I'm working with right now, that's actually two of them, we're doing it that way with recorded interviews, and then I work off the transcript to fill in the gaps in their manuscript. And another, the time management thing is critical for business owners. It's not necessarily time management. I feel it's more project management. For instance, I'm working with one man who's very good at what he does. He's absolutely an expert, been wanting to do a book for years and just never put it into place in his energy system. So we came up with a working method that saves him time, saves me time. It's very efficient, and we're both very pleased with how the book is coming along. And then, of course, every author also, and every business person hits a place where the motivation isn't quite there, and stuff happens that makes the energy kind of sag a little bit. And that's one of the things that I provide support for as well is, okay, so we're at this place, we have this challenge, how are we going to deal with it? That's why, rocket science is a great metaphor, because it's all about using your imagination and making it up as you go along. So
that's fantastic.
That's the creative part.
That's great.
Yeah.
So that's where you become more of a creative writer. How would you label yourself as, you could, a creative writer, fictional writer? What do you enjoy the most in working with a business? I mean, what do you like? You got to almost download the information that they're giving you and sort of summarize it and the right voice that their intention is, the right language. Yeah. Tell us what goes through that process when you're working with a client. What can they expect the outcome to look like?
Okay, well, I do an interview and we talk about who is the ideal client, what's the target market. The number one thing to identify is what's the purpose of this writing? What is it that you really want to accomplish?
Right.
And then from there, what's the method that we're going to construct so that you're meeting your market where they are? And then also, how are you going to position yourself in such a way that you are believable, you're an authority figure? And between those three elements, we can put together very effective messaging using the classic tools of the science of rhetoric, which is one of the things I studied when I was being trained as a writer, of how to just drill it down so that you create exactly the message that's going to land with the people you want to reach.
That's fantastic.
So I do it with interviews. I interview, I ask if there's any materials, other interviews, branding materials, and so on. And my whole aim is to create content that can be repurposed across various platforms. Like, for instance, a book, you can repurpose book chapters into YouTube videos or blog posts or social media posts in different ways. And when I'm writing copy for people, just, I often do that. I break it down into bullet points that can be just grabbed and put on a social media platform. And they're also talking points so that if you're a speaker and someone asks you a question, you can fall back on your talking points and be ready for whatever happens.
Fantastic. So you could even do PowerPoint, take a conversation, and maybe they want to turn it into a workshop, that's palatable, and right. Maybe a 30-minute workshop where they have, the script, so to speak, but they need a PowerPoint to go along with it. You could assist a business with that as well. Yeah. That's fantastic.
Yes, I do that.
What a great service.
I actually really like it. I love making decks. So.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, I could tell just with your smile there that you love doing that. What a great solution for a business. I love it. It's fantastic. Well, to end here, we'll keep it short and sweet. It's real simple. You just go to the writerlaunchpad.com, reach out to Betty. I'll put her information or phone number below her video there so you can connect with her. If you're a business and you're struggling with your content, or maybe you have a marketing department and you just need a different vantage point. Someone who is skilled, who can develop some content, curate some content for you, repurpose it, and get it out in the marketplace for you, then Betty is the right person for you that can handle the job and handle it right. So Betty, has been great to get to know you. But there's one last question. What one thing, which we know it's not realistic question, but what one thing would you want me to know about you if I never got a chance to talk to you again? If we never got to speak again, if I never saw you again, what one thing would you want me to know about you, Betty?
I would want you to know that I care very much about other people. And I would want you personally, Ed, I would want you to know that I've really enjoyed getting to know you over the time that we've spent on speed networking on Blitzer. I would want you to know that I did my best to show up for everybody that I interacted with throughout my life.
That's fantastic. Well, I could tell, and I could attest to that. I know you do. That's probably the ranching background in your background of your family and the rocket launchers. You got to tell us that story sometime. Your family was big in that, I imagine. Yeah. So.
Well, my father was a test engineer when they were developing the Saturn boosters. And one of my sons has a master's degree in aero. He happens to fly a helicopter instead of a rocket or a jet. My nephew is a rocket scientist. My sister teaches rocket science, and my nephew's father is also a rocket scientist. He helped to develop the first solid rocket fuel in the Aerojet back in the 60s. So
wow, that's incredible.
And everybody's quirky. So I said, okay, my launch pad too. Right.
That's fantastic. That's how you came up with the name, right? That's great. What a great story. Exactly. Betty, it's always a pleasure to see you. And I know I'm glad it's not going to be the last time I'm going to see you or talk to you. Yeah. But it was absolute pleasure to talk with you today, Betty. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I'm Ed Garza, Mr. Pitchman. Thank you for tuning in. You're welcome. Thank you, everybody, for joining in. And hopefully we'll get a chance to interview Betty again about one of her exciting projects. Thank you very much. Make it a great day, folks.